Welcome to H2K Infosys. H2K Infosys is a e-verified business based in Atlanta, Georgia, United States. We provide 100% job-oriented, instructor-led, face-to-face, true live online software training programs. It also includes access to cloud test lab with software tools. We provide live project for you to work on. We also provide assistance with mock interviews, resume preparation and review, and job placement assistance. H2K Infosys is trusted by so many students across the world. H2K Infosys provides world-class services in IT training with real-time project work for corporates and individuals, special IT training for MS students in the United States, software design, development, QA manual and automation, performance testing and maintenance, IT staff augmentation, job placement assistance, and tech support.
That will be specified by using a property called dialect property. So here the dialect property will consist of certain class details. So the class information will inform to the Hibernate that what kind of a database that we want to use, and we want to write the commands or SQL queries. See, currently with respect to our Java code, we are not going to dealing with any driver manager or any other low-level stuff. Only thing is, even for the connection as well, you are going to ask the Hibernate to provide a connection, because your Hibernate will be going to maintain the connection pool. So that means it's not required for you to create a connection object on your own. You are not going to create the connection object also. You are going to ask the Hibernate to provide a connection, and when you have done or when you have completed the execution, you can just return the connection, or you can close the connection, and your Hibernate won't close the connection. It will just return the connection object back to the connection pool. So that means it's your responsibility to provide all your information, to provide all the information required for database access. See, currently we are not going to create the connection, but who will be going to create? Your Hibernate will be going to create the connection. So, but if you guys remember, for establishing the connection, we need JDBC URL, we need username, we need password, and we need schema name. So ultimately, you need to provide all this information to your Hibernate that this is the JDBC URL that we are supposed to use, and username and password to contact the particular schema. Along with this, you need to provide one more property, which is nothing but your dialect property. The dialect property specifies, just now only we have discussed, what kind of database we are going to use, so that your Hibernate will generate the corresponding SQL query. All this information are nothing but the configuration properties for your Hibernate, and these are specified with a configuration XML file, and the preferred Hibernate XML file is hibernate.cfg.xml. This is the preferred Hibernate configuration XML file. And if you remember, during the startup time for connection pooling topic, I have mentioned that the connection pool will create a number of connections during the startup of your application itself or during your application deployment. So that means your Hibernate needs these properties only once. It's not required for Hibernate to provide the details each and every time or create the connection pool for each and every client request. It will just create the connection pool during the startup time. That means you are supposed to write the setup at your listener level. See, this connection pooling, only thing we need to do is create 50 connections and make it available for client requests. So that means before handling any of the client requests, you are supposed to create 50 connections and make it available for your client requests. And we have specified about the mapping between our Java entity and database table columns. So you need to write one more mapping file. This mapping file specifies the relationship between your Java entity and database column. So the mapping file, you can use any kind of mapping file name, but the extension should be hbm.xml file, hbm Hibernate bean mapping file, and at the end .xml extension. So if at all, if you are writing corresponding to your employee table, write employee.hbm.xml file, and if you are writing address.hbm.xml file. But your configuration file, it should contain only one configuration file corresponding to your database details. But your mapping files, it can contain any number of mapping files because your employee maps to employee bean and address maps to address bean. Hibernate also provides caching mechanism, which was not available with our raw JDBC. There are certain standard steps for configuring a Hibernate application. If we have just followed those 5 or 6 steps, then it will be easy for us to understand the whole project itself. The first one is you need to write a Hibernate configuration file. Just now only we have discussed about our configuration file, which is a startup one, which consists of all the information about your database details. And the next one, load all required jar files for Hibernate. So there are plenty of jar files. I have already provided a link where you are supposed to download the jar files. I'll be going to complete by 9:45 today. I have provided a link where you can download the jar files. So just download the jar files, and these are the jar files that you are supposed to put within your build path or within your web content webinf lib folder to work on any Hibernate project. Sorry. And the next one is Session Factory. Session Factory is the startup class for your Hibernate. See, for any kind of stuff, there will be a startup class, just like how you have driver manager class for your JDBC code. Your session factory will be the startup class for your Hibernate, and there should be only one session factory available throughout your application. Your session factory, by using your session factory only, you will create all the sessions. Again, session nothing but wrapper around your connection object. Ultimately, your session is just like hot. So it is just like a wrapper around your connection object, which will perform all the retrievals or closing the connection or closing the session, you can say, because we are not going to close the connection. But the startup place is your session factory, and your session factory, by using your session factory only, you are going to create all the sessions. With Hibernate, you are not going to work at the lower level connection object level, and you are going to work only at the session level. So by using your session only, you are going to issue all your crude operations.
Krish, Soumya here, Krish. I did not follow this session factory. Krish, can you please repeat?
By using your session factory only, you are going to create all the sessions. Session factory is just like the startup class for your Hibernate. See, ultimately you are supposed to start with one class whenever you are going to use any kind of framework, or even with our JDBC also, we have started using driver manager as our startup class. By using your driver manager only, you are going to call the get connection method, which will provide you the connection object. In the same way, your session factory is the startup class for your Hibernate. By using your session factory only, you are going to create all the sessions. Session nothing but a wrapper around your connection object. Your session will be used to execute all the crude operations. Not only crude operations, you can perform any other operation as well. But ultimately we need, at the Java level, we just need only access to these four. Oh yeah, you can think like that. The next one is entity class. Entity nothing but your bean class, or you can say the Pojo class, plain old Java object class for your employee class. So which consists of the employee class, which consists of your property declarations, and it also consists of all your setters and getters. And the next step, the mapping file. Your mapping file is nothing but employee.hbm.xml file, which will contain mapping between your employee table and your employee bean, employee entity. Once you got the session factory object, you can just call a method open session, which will provide you a session. Didn't you attend the the additional Java features class, Soumya?
I did, Krish.
Okay, didn't I mention that there?
Sorry, Krish, I don't remember.
Okay. Pojo, nothing but plain old Java object, which consists of, you know about Java Bean, right?
Yes, Krish.
Okay. So you can just take the other name for your Java bean. Normally, Pojo represents properties, and it consists of setters and getters. Your Java bean will also consist of the same, which is nothing but declaration of some properties and consists of setters and getters. It's a plain Java object which consists of setters and getters for your properties. Okay. In terms of Hibernate, we'll call this as an entity class. When we move to struts, we'll call with some other name. But ultimately, we are referring to our Java bean, nothing but which consists of setters and getters. And once you got the session factory, you can ask the session factory to provide a session. And by using that session only, you are going to perform all the work. All the work in the sense, go and get the details of an employee with name Steve or with employee ID 1. And finally, you are supposed to create a transaction object whenever you want to perform a commit or rollback. This is just like how we have seen the transaction maintenance within our JDBC. Within our JDBC, we have seen the method connection.commit or connection.rollback. So here also, whenever you are doing any insertion kind of stuff, you are supposed to open a transaction and you are supposed to perform the insertion, and then finally you are supposed to call commit or rollback operation. Once you have downloaded the jar files for your Hibernate, if you take a look at the package structure, all your Hibernate jar files, all your Hibernate class files are available within the package called org.hibernate. And after that, it will contain certain nested packages, or else it can contain the class files at the same level. But ultimately, your Hibernate will contain all the class files with the package called org.hibernate. Org nothing but, see here you can see that this is just like the reverse of a domain for your hibernate.org. So they have followed a standard reverse domain standard they have followed instead of conflicting with any other open source frameworks. That's the reason we are supposed to follow the reverse domain approach whenever we are declaring our own packages. There are certain components, certain important components that are available in our Hibernate. If we are able to learn those components, then we are able to understand the whole Hibernate concept itself. The first one is session component, or else you can say all those are interfaces or classes within our Hibernate package. Session interface, which sits between your Java application and Hibernate. So almost all the work will be specified by using your session object. So whatever the command that you are going to issue, let us say you want to perform select star from employee. So you want to write this particular query, but ultimately you are not going to write this query on your own. You are going to ask the Hibernate to perform this. So your Hibernate will be able to understand the Java object representation Your Hibernate will understand the Java object representation, and it will generate the corresponding query, and it will issue the query to the database, and it will fetch the result and stores that in terms of object representation. So your session, it acts as an interface between your Java and Hibernate. And we have discussed about the CRUD operations. All this are available from your session itself. And the next one is session factory. Session factory is the only one which will provide you the session object. So whenever you want a session, you'll just make use of the session factory and you will retrieve the session from this, and you will perform the rest of the work. And we have already mentioned that we should have only one session factory per database. I don't think I have mentioned. I'm sorry for that. Session factory, it should be with respect to the database. Let us say you want one session factory with respect to Oracle database and one session factory with respect to some other schema within your Oracle database itself. Even though if you are using Oracle database, the schema was different. So that means you are going to use, let us say you are going to use app_user schema, or else app_admin as schema. So that means both are two different schemas and both will contain different database table set. So in that case, you are supposed to create a separate session factory. Even with our URL also, the JDBC access URL, you can't use the JavaDB schema to contact some other schema details. This is also just like the same way. The next one, configuration object. Previously, we have mentioned about we need to specify some configuration details, which is nothing but your hibernate.cfg.xml file. So your configuration class or your configuration component will read this hibernate config.xml file, and it will establish or it will create those many connections, whatever that you have specified within your config file. And your configuration file is responsible for creating the session factory as well. Once you have loaded all the properties, see, by using your properties only, you can create a factory, session factory. So that means your configuration was supposed to read all the config properties first, and once it has read all the properties, it will try to create those many connections, and it will create a session factory as well, which will be the wrapper for all your connection objects. The next one, transaction object. Just like whatever you want to perform, the atomic operation kind of stuff, then you'll go for transaction. Finally, the query interface. The query interface, which is used to perform the operation based on different criteria. With respect to your session object, there are some restrictions. Nothing but you can query the data only based on primary key. With respect to your session object, you can't query the data based on some other criteria. So that means you can't query the data like select star from employee, where employee name equal to this information. No, not at all acceptable. When you are querying the data by using the actual session, you can't make use of like select star from employee, where salary between 2000 and 3000. Your session object won't provide, your session don't have this particular execution directly. For that purpose only, your session has access to the criteria or the query. Those are different classes. So by using criteria or query, you can write, ultimately you are not going to write the query in terms of SQL representation. You are going to specify in terms of Java object representation or method calls only. So your criteria or query classes consist of all the methods like your aggregate functions like between operation, group by operation, order by operation. So those kind of methods are available within your criteria or query interface. If at all, if your intention is other than primary key based retrieval, then you should go for criteria or query classes. So with respect to Hibernate, we just need to learn only these 5 classes or interfaces, you can say, and we need to understand how we can make use of the session object and retrieve the data, and also how we can write the query and retrieve the data based on query criteria, and when we need to start a transaction. Normally transaction is not required when we are going to retrieve the data from database, because get command or retrieval command, it is only fetching the data from the database, and you are not going to perform any kind of transaction at that level. But when you are doing an insertion statement or update statement, let us say you have asked the Hibernate to insert for 20 records, and Hibernate has performed 10 records, and when it is inserting the 11th record, it sees that the primary key violation has occurred. So at that time, what you want to do, like you want to insert or you want to place the 10 rows available in the database, or you want to roll back the whole transaction. So at that point of time, we need transaction kind of support to perform commit or rollback statements. Or else, let us say your employee or address relationship. You have created an employee record, but when you are creating the address record, the corresponding address record, you saw that the address was already available and you got a duplicate key exception. So that means you are not supposed to leave your employee insertion, and you are supposed to roll back both the transactions. So in those cases, you are supposed to make use of the transaction object.
So many of our students have given testimonials on how our training programs are. You will find them on kudzu.com and on our website H2KInfosys.com. On our website H2KInfosys.com, you will also find more detailed information on who we are, the courses that we offer, what each course covers. Also, if you're interested in a demo program, please register on our homepage on the left-hand side. Just give us more information about yourself and we will send you a link for a demo class. The demo class is absolutely free. Experience our commitment by just attending an orientation workshop at no cost. Our team of faculty and advisors are here to guide you with the right information. If you still have more questions, please feel free to call us. Call us at 770-777-1269. This is a United States number. If you're calling from the UK, call us at 020-337-17615. You can also email us at training@h2kinfosys.com or h2kinfosys@gmail.com. Thank you for watching our videos. We wish you a great career in information technology.